What's up guys, Draco here, talking about rats. I don't know how to imitate a rat. But yeah, since I study psychology sometimes, I have looked at quite a few rat experiments, and rats are pretty cool. I feel bad for them. It's like animal ethics. It's like some of them are like, make sense, like Rat Park or Rat Utopia or whatever it's called. It's like, well, they weren't intentionally like in that bad of a situation. But then you look at like Kurt Richter, where he just drowned a bunch of rats, and Lashley, where they just cut a bunch of rats' brains. Kempen was alright. That's the other one I can remember. Because I can mainly think of rat studies in terms of like brain stuff. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've given two examples of brain-based ones, being Lashley and Kempen, and the others aren't. But yeah, Kempen was good, actually. Yeah, but yeah, the Kurt Richter study actually really interested me. So, quick rundown, basically, got a bunch of domesticated rats, I think like 20 or something. And then, of these rats, they chucked them in water. A couple drowned after a couple minutes, but most of them would keep swimming for days until they eventually drowned. However, then he got a bunch of... I assume Kurt Richter's a guy's name, I never checked that. But Kurt just sounds like a guy's name. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a guy. So yeah, he then gets a bunch of wild rats and then chucks them in a bucket, and they all drown after like a minute because they just sort of give up. And it was a cool experiment on like the importance of hope, and it's like, well, the domesticated rats are used to being saved in times of peril, so they keep trying, but it's like, these wild rats have no one to rely on, so like, well, time to just give up. And I found that really interesting. As someone who really enjoys learning about like psychopathology, which I can't say quickly because I'm bad at speaking. But I find that really interesting. A bunch of different mental disorders, whether it's like depression, schizophrenia, phobias, all sorts of stuff. I find loads of stuff like that really interesting. Like, I find all of psychology interesting, but then when it's like attachments or like relationships, I'm like, well, I don't really care because I'm like, you know, I don't want kids and I don't really want a relationship. So yeah, because I'm abro and I'm usually ace, because abro means you switch sexualities. And it's just like, yeah, and also a lot of the studies that we'll learn about are gendered. And when I'm agender, it's like, well, I don't really connect with anything I've just learned because it's all about a specific gender. It's like, great. Anyway, that's my tiny rant about psychology over. Psychology is great though, I love it. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Psychopathology is also one of the things that, in my opinion, is very useful for me to understand because I have a lot of friends who have stuff like that, as well as I have some symptoms of stuff. Anyway, so it's more useful for me to understand. But yeah, what was it? This was about rats. How did I get to that? Oh yeah, I know how I got to that. But yeah, I just think rats are pretty cool. Also, rats get a hella bad rep. People are like, oh, they're so dirty and stuff. It's like, they do clean themselves. They just live in kind of dirty places because they live in like every place ever. Isn't there a statistic that's like, you're never more than like a meter away from them? It can't be a meter, that's definitely not right. But it's like, you're never more than a certain distance away from a rat, and it's definitely below 10 meters. I think it might have been like 5 meters away. I mean, like, you're obviously sometimes away from them. I think if you're on a plane, you're probably pretty far away from rats. I doubt there's rats on planes, but I haven't checked. But like, I think it applies more to ancient humans, where there's just so many rats in so many places, and because you can't just go to the top floor of a building or go on a boat or on a plane or something. I mean, obviously, rats used to get on boats, but I don't think they get on boats that much anymore. But rats are also very good at hiding, which is the reason that you don't see them, despite them being all around you. But yeah, it's just because the Black Plague came from rats, and now everyone's like, oh, rats are so dirty, they carry the plague, and it's like, well, not always. It's like, I'm not going to say that, actually. But yeah, I feel like rats get a hella bad rep. There's other stuff, like the blobfish also gets a hella bad rep. And it's like, it's literally dying. You get a photo of a blobfish, and it's like, wow, look how funny it looks like. It's like, yeah, because it's a deep-sea fish. Of course, if you put it at the surface, it's dying. Imagine I, like, stabbed you, took your inside organs out, and you're like, wow, look how stupid he looks. It's like, sorry, I'm dying. Yeah, I am a huge blobfish apologist. I'm a huge apologist for a lot of animals. Animals are great. Humans aren't. I am fully on board with this statement I said way back when about I want to be a satisfied pig. Which is, hit me up if you can turn me into a pig. Or a frog. Or what else do witches turn people into? I don't know, but I'm fully on board with most animals. Is there an animal that which could turn me into? I'd be like, no. Maybe I think earthworm I can work with. Tapeworm, nah. Yeah, that's my answer to if someone asked me like, would you still love me if I was a worm? I'd be like, depends on the worm. Because earthworm, yeah. Tapeworm, no. I don't have anyone who would ask me that, and I don't think I ever will, so I don't need to worry too much about that response. I don't really know what the... I think the other thing is, that's a question that asks for self-validation a lot, and looking for external validation. So, the more important question is, would you love yourself if you were a worm? Because no one can love you until you learn to love yourself truly. So, self-love is more important than external validation. Now, that's a very roundabout way of answering the question, but it's like... The other question is like, even if the answer's yes, and you're like, oh, you know I would, it's like, well, have you done something to make this feel unloved? Probably not, but it's good to check. And there's no harm in checking. So yeah. I don't know why it started as a worm, this whole thing. Well, I wish I was a druid, and then if they got turned into a worm, I could also become a worm, and then we could be worm buddies. Anyway. It's about rats, wasn't it? Would you still love them if they turned into a rat? Same answer, except from not the tapeworm stuff, because there aren't tape rats. Yeah, I would still love them. I wouldn't love them the same way, but... Actually, I probably would love them the same way, because I, again, don't care about romance. My answer to if someone asked me, would you still love me if I was a worm, is I don't love you now. That's probably more accurate. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not good at animal ethics. I don't like the idea of killing animals, but it's like... anyway. Yeah, I feel like it's too deep for me to discuss something like this with very little research done beyond what I've done ages ago. So yeah, but I don't know, animal ethics, everyone's going to have their own opinions on, and whatever I say doesn't really change anything, so yeah. I think my personal opinion is, like, if it's not going to, like, kill or permanently damage a rat, it's, like, fine. Like, I've mentioned Kemperman's quite a few times, but he basically just, like, gave rats different complexity in cages. Was Kemperman a he? I don't remember. Kemperman, this person, who I don't know the gender or sex or anything of, put a bunch of rats in different cages, and then looked at grey matter in their brains, and was like, wow, if they have more complex cages, they have more grey matter. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, because there's no, like, ethical implications. But then when you look at Kurt Richter, he's killing a bunch of rats. So it's like, maybe that's a bit more unethical. But then it's rats, and it's like, well, you're doing something with the corpses. If you were feeding it to, like, a snake, maybe that would be good, because it's like, it's going to die anyway. But then if you're just sort of trucking the bodies out, then it's like, well, that's a waste. So yeah, I don't know what they did with the bodies of the rats after, but yeah. This was kind of dark. I did not expect it to get this dark when it's talking about rats. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Are you a fan of rats? If so, go look for a rat, I guess. I've seen a lot of rats. They often, like, run down the street at night. Into, like, drains and stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like rats, go look at photos of rats or something. Pinterest, maybe. Or even go... Zoos are great. You should go to a zoo. I haven't been to a zoo in ages. I'd like to go to a zoo sometime soon. Anyway, bye. I really haven't thought of something to say at the end of this one. Yay. Bye.